For 22 years, the city of Lexington lived with a secret, a murder that shouldn't have happened, a case that shouldn't have gone cold, and a killer who wore the badge of trust. Memories faded, evidence disappeared, and hope dimmed. But sometimes justice doesn't follow the rules. Sometimes it waits, hidden in plain sight, until someone refuses to let the darkness win. The Merritt case had remained unsolved for 22 long years. Over 2 decades, the story of Detective Silus Merritt's murder had slowly faded from the public's memory. For many in Lexington, it was just a name in an old newspaper, a tragic story they remembered vaguely, like a ghost in the back of their minds. Memories fade over time, evidence degrades, and witnesses either move away or pass on. The city continued to live and grow, but the unanswered questions lingered like a shadow, haunting those who had known Silus Merritt and leaving a wound that never truly healed. For most, it had become a cold case, something the police department reported on every year with a dry press release and a small reward update. By the 22nd year, that reward had reached $150,000, a number meant to encourage tips. Yet for the most part, it had become just another line in the press. The case, in the public eye, was fading into history. But for Detective Allison Reed, this was never just a cold file. Reed was new to Lexington's 3-person cold case unit, and on paper she wasn't even supposed to be involved with the Merritt case. Her assignments were smaller, more routine unsolved robberies from 2010, cases with living victims and more physical evidence, cases that seemed straightforward by comparison. Yet something about the Merritt case kept drawing her in, pulling her into a quiet obsession that grew after hours in the solitude of her office. Reed's connection to the case was deeply personal. She had grown up in Lexington, just a child, when Detective Merritt was killed. Her father had been a patrol officer on duty the morning Silus Merritt was murdered. Reed remembered the fear and disbelief on her father's face that day. He had come home white as a sheet, unable to speak for a moment before whispering, "Someone got Silus." It felt personal, even though I never met him. That moment had stayed with Allison, etched into her memory. The idea that someone could take a man like Merritt, a dedicated officer who had devoted his life to protecting the city, and get away with it, troubled her deeply. As she grew older and joined the police force herself, that memory became more than just a story from her childhood. It became a mission. While her colleagues saw a 22-year-old unsolved case as a distant, almost mythical event, Reed saw a man whose life had been stolen, a family left in pain, and a city that deserved justice. The idea that one person's determination could perhaps uncover the truth where decades of investigation had failed became the spark that drove her. Reed often said later that the Merritt case was like a ghost story in Lexington, one that had haunted her since she was a child. It wasn't just about solving a crime, it was about giving a voice to a man who had been silenced, and about proving that even after decades, the truth could still be uncovered. In a city where most had forgotten, Allison Reed refused to let this story be buried. And so, with quiet determination, she began to study every detail of the case, every report, every witness statement. She wasn't just investigating a cold file, she was chasing a promise she had made, silently, to a memory of a man she had never met but deeply respected. The Merritt case was forgotten by the world, but not by her. For over 2 decades, the Merritt case had remained a frustrating puzzle. Every lead had been followed, every theory explored, yet the killer had remained hidden in plain sight. Evidence that once held promise had slowly lost its power, bullets too damaged to match, witnesses who had grown older, memories that had blurred over time. For most, the case was a closed chapter. For Detective Allison Reed, it was far from over. The breakthrough came in the most unexpected way, a chance encounter at a law enforcement conference in Nashville. Reed had attended a presentation by Dr. Marcus Whitman, a ballistics expert from the FBI. He spoke about a new technology called topographic bullet identification, or TBI. Unlike traditional ballistics, which relied on the human eye and microscopes, TBI created detailed 3-dimensional models of bullets and casings. It could detect microscopic markings that no human could see, even on bullets that had been damaged beyond recognition. Reed listened intently, her heart pounding. This technology could be the key that finally unlocked the Merritt case. After the presentation, she approached Dr. Whitman. Her voice carried both hope and urgency. She explained the case, the unsolved murder of Detective Silus Merritt, and the single bullet that had never been matched to a weapon. Whitman, familiar with the limitations of past investigations, understood immediately. "Bring me the bullet," he said. "No promises, but this is exactly the type of case TBI was designed for." Back in Lexington, Reed faced another challenge: bureaucracy. The evidence in the Merritt case was sacred, protected, and never to leave the department lightly. Chief Anthony Davis, who had joined the force years after Merritt's death, raised concerns. "You want to remove our only physical evidence and take it to Quantico?" he asked, skepticism in his voice. Reed explained the technology, the potential, and why this could be the one chance to finally solve the case. After 2 weeks of discussion, and with the support of the Merritt family, Davis agreed. In early March 2020, Reed personally transported the bullet to the FBI laboratory. Within hours, Whitman's team scanned it, creating a microscopic 3D model that revealed previously invisible markings. For the first time in 22 years, the evidence spoke in a way it never had before. The results were promising, but not yet conclusive. They needed to match the markings to a weapon. Reed returned to Lexington with a plan that many thought was bold, even risky. She proposed what she called a ballistics census, asking every current and former Lexington police officer to voluntarily submit their firearms for testing. Her reasoning was simple. If the killer had connections within the police department, the weapon might still exist somewhere. The proposal sparked controversy. Some officers were skeptical, others feared invasion of privacy, but Chief Davis supported her and momentum began to build. Within weeks, hundreds of firearms had been analyzed, each compared against the TBI profile of the bullet. Day after day, Reed waited, hoping for a match, yet finding nothing. Doubt began to creep in. Maybe the technology would fail. Maybe the killer had been someone outside the department all along, but Reed refused to give up. She knew that sometimes the smallest lead, the newest technology, could finally reveal the truth hidden for decades. Detective Allison Reed knew that solving the Merritt case would require more than just technology. It would require courage, persistence, and the willingness to challenge the very institution she served. The TBI scan of the bullet had revealed microscopic details invisible to traditional analysis, but identifying the weapon still seemed like searching for a needle in a haystack. Reed needed a strategy, and she devised something unprecedented: a ballistics census. The idea was simple, yet daring. Every firearm owned by current and former Lexington police officers would be voluntarily submitted for test firing and TBI analysis. Reed's reasoning was clear. If the killer had law enforcement connections, as many had long suspected, the murder weapon might still be in their possession. The proposal, however, was unlike anything the department had ever seen. When she first presented the plan to Chief Anthony Davis, the room was tense. "You want to ask every officer, past and present, to give up their firearms for testing?" he asked. Reed nodded, her voice steady. "Yes, sir, and I know it's extraordinary, but this case is extraordinary. We might be looking at someone who used their badge to hide a crime. If that's true, this is the only way to find them." The idea met immediate resistance. The police union raised privacy concerns. Some officers questioned Reed's motives, and others feared that submitting their personal firearms might open them to scrutiny. Rumors spread through the department, whispers of betrayal and suspicion. Yet Chief Davis's support became the turning point. He encouraged officers to participate, emphasizing the importance of justice and accountability over discomfort or ego. To set an example, the department's leadership team was the first to submit their weapons. One by one, service weapons and personal firearms were documented, test-fired, and sent for TBI profiling. Reed watched as the program gained momentum. Within 3 weeks, 87% of current officers had participated. Hundreds of weapons were now being compared against the Merritt bullet, each test a potential step closer to justice. The process was exhaustive. Every test produced mountains of data, and the TBI results had to be meticulously analyzed. Day after day, Reed returned from the lab with updates, yet the results were discouraging. No matches emerged. The possibility that the killer had been someone outside the department, or that the weapon had been lost forever, haunted her. Undeterred, Reed expanded the census to retired officers. This proved even more challenging. Many had moved away, some had sold or transferred their firearms, and others were no longer living. Tracking down nearly 200 additional weapons became a logistical challenge, yet Reed pressed on. Each submission brought hope and tension, a reminder of how close they might be, or how far the killer had slipped into history. Even as doubt began to creep into the minds of her colleagues, Reed's resolve never wavered. She reminded herself daily why she had taken up this case: the memories of a community shaken by loss, the family still waiting for answers, and the knowledge that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, deserved to be uncovered. The ballistics census was more than just a procedure. It was a symbol of determination, a testament to one detective's refusal to let time and bureaucracy bury the story of Detective Silus Merritt. And then, as hope and frustration balanced precariously, an unexpected discovery would change everything. Just when Detective Allison Reed began to feel the weight of frustration pressing down on her, an unexpected discovery changed everything. For more than 2 decades, the Merritt case had seemed like a locked door, the key forever lost. Yet sometimes the smallest clue can turn years of dead ends into a path forward. The breakthrough came from someone no one would have expected, Maria Merritt, Silus Merritt's widow. While going through her late husband's belongings, preparing items for the police museum, she found something unusual tucked inside an old briefcase, a small, worn notebook. Its pages were filled with cryptic initials, numbers, and shorthand notes, but one entry immediately caught attention, a reference to a gun, including a serial number and a name, Daniel Slater. The name sent shockwaves through Reed's mind. Daniel Slater had been one of the department's most respected officers, a trusted member of the original Merritt murder investigation, and someone who had retired with honors. Could it really be possible that a man who had sworn to uphold the law was somehow connected to the murder he had been investigating? Reed's heart pounded. This was the kind of lead that felt almost impossible, and yet the notebook could not be ignored. Reed theorized carefully. Slater had reported a Glock 23 as stolen a year before Merritt's murder. The notebook seemed to suggest that Merritt had made a connection between the missing weapon and someone on the inside. Reed's instincts told her that the missing gun, combined with the TBI analysis, might finally reveal the killer. With cautious determination, Reed requested a search warrant for Slater's residence at a lakeside retirement home outside Lexington. When authorities arrived, Slater appeared cooperative, even calm. Initial searches yielded nothing, but Reed and the team were meticulous. On the second day, one of the agents noticed something unusual at Slater's boat dock. One support post seemed newer than the others. It produced a hollow sound when tapped. Inside the post, wrapped in waterproof material and sealed in concrete, was a Glock 23. The serial number matched the one in Merritt's notebook. Reed's heart raced as the weapon was carefully transported to Quantico for TBI analysis. The microscopic markings on the bullets matched the one that killed Detective Merritt with an accuracy of 99.8%. It was the proof they had been searching for, decades of investigation suddenly converging into one undeniable fact. This moment was not just a victory of science. It was a testament to persistence, intuition, and the refusal to let time erase truth. Reed realized that solving the Merritt case required more than advanced technology. It required faith in the value of every small lead, every overlooked clue, and the courage to pursue justice, even when it meant challenging assumptions and confronting the unthinkable. The breakthrough was complete. The killer had been identified, hiding in plain sight, protected by the very badge meant to enforce justice. But the story was far from over. The implications of Slater's actions and the betrayal that had gone undetected for 22 years were only beginning to unfold. And as Reed prepared for the next steps, she knew one thing with absolute clarity: the truth had finally been found, and no one could ever take it away. The discovery of Daniel Slater's Glock was only the beginning. Detective Allison Reed and her team soon realized that what they had uncovered was far more than a simple murder. It was a carefully concealed web of corruption that had festered inside the Lexington Police Department for years. As investigators dug deeper into Slater's past, the pieces of the puzzle started to form a chilling picture. Slater, a decorated officer with a spotless reputation, had used his position of trust to secretly aid criminal enterprises. Financial records revealed hundreds of thousands of dollars in unexplained income, deposited through shell companies and offshore accounts. This was money that did not come from his police salary, money that had flowed quietly while the department carried on unaware. Digital forensics added another layer of horror. Deleted emails, encrypted files, and hidden communications with known drug traffickers painted a clear picture. Slater had been acting as a covert protector and informant for the Cabrera drug cartel. He had steered investigations away from their operations, sabotaged raids, and exposed informants who were working to dismantle the organization. In essence, he had turned the badge he wore into a weapon against justice. The most heartbreaking revelation came from Merritt's own notes. Silus had been piecing together evidence that suggested Slater's duplicity long before his murder. He had documented patterns of failed investigations, suspicious disappearances of confidential informants, and unexplained outcomes in cases involving major drug traffickers. At the center of it all, time and again, was Slater's name. Merritt's meticulous notes had been the blueprint for uncovering the truth. but they had also marked him for death. The psychological aspect of Slater's deception shocked everyone. He hadn't just hidden his crimes, he had performed a 2-decade-long masquerade. He attended Merritt family events, sent condolences and letters, comforted colleagues and mentored young officers, all while knowing he was the very person responsible for the pain, fear, and loss they endured. It was a betrayal so profound that it left a mark on everyone who had known him. Interviews with former colleagues revealed the extent of the emotional manipulation. Officers who had trusted Slater, learned from him, or considered him a friend now struggled to reconcile the man they knew with the criminal revealed by the investigation. It wasn't just the murder, it was the careful, calculated way he had undermined the very system sworn to protect the community. Reed realized that solving this case would not only bring Merritt's killer to justice, but would expose the cracks in the department that had allowed corruption to thrive for decades. It became clear that accountability had to extend beyond a single arrest. Policies needed reform, oversight had to be strengthened, and lessons had to be learned to ensure no officer could ever exploit their badge to shield crimes again. The web of corruption was vast, complex, and disturbing. But now, thanks to persistence, technology, and the bravery of those willing to pursue the truth, it was finally coming undone. The long shadow Slater had cast over Lexington's law enforcement was ending, and the path toward justice and reform was finally being illuminated. After 22 long years, the truth about Silus Merritt's murder had finally come to light. Daniel Slater, once a respected officer and mentor, had been revealed as the very person who betrayed the law, his colleagues, and the Merritt family. His arrest sent shockwaves through Lexington, leaving the community stunned, the police department shaken, and the Merritt family both relieved and heartbroken. The trial was a testament to meticulous investigation, courage, and the relentless pursuit of justice. For weeks, prosecutors laid out the evidence: the ballistics match, the hidden Glock, the financial records tracing Slater's bribes, the secret emails, and the stolen notebook that revealed the web of corruption he had maintained for decades. Witnesses told stories of Slater's duplicity and the countless ways he had manipulated those around him. The defense attempted to cast doubt, arguing that the new ballistics technology was untested and offering alternative scenarios, but the overwhelming evidence left little room for doubt. After only 7 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, conspiracy, and corruption under color of authority. Slater faced the full weight of the law. Judge Eleanor Simmons' sentencing made clear the gravity of his betrayal: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, plus decades for the additional crimes. The courtroom, heavy with emotion, witnessed Maria Merritt confront the man who had spent more than 2 decades deceiving her and her children. Her words echoed not only in the room but across the community. The pain, the loss, and the betrayal would never fully disappear, but justice had finally been served. For the Lexington Police Department, Slater's conviction became a turning point. The case exposed vulnerabilities and demanded systemic change. Chief Davis led a comprehensive review of all cases Slater had touched, especially those connected to the Cabrera drug cartel. Convictions were re-examined, and several were overturned due to evidence tampering. Beyond individual cases, the department implemented sweeping reforms to prevent corruption: advanced evidence tracking systems, stricter financial disclosures, mandatory body cameras, random case audits, and anonymous reporting mechanisms for officers. The goal was clear: no badge would be beyond scrutiny, and no case would be immune to accountability. The Merritt family channeled their grief into something enduring. They established the Detective Silus Merritt Foundation for Police Integrity, dedicated to supporting whistleblowers, promoting transparency, and helping departments implement anti-corruption measures. The foundation stands as a living tribute to Silus's courage, a reminder that one person's commitment to truth can inspire change long after they are gone. The city of Lexington also found ways to honor Silus. A permanent memorial, a bronze statue depicting him in uniform with his notebook in hand, now stands in front of the police headquarters. It serves as a daily reminder to officers and citizens alike of the cost of integrity, the value of honesty, and the price of betrayal. Ultimately, the Merritt case became more than a cold case solved. It became a story of justice, reform, and resilience. It reminded the world that even when darkness lingers for decades, the truth can emerge, and when it does, it can reshape institutions, heal wounds, and inspire generations to fight for what is right. The Merritt case reminds us that justice is never guaranteed, but it is always worth fighting for. 2 decades of unanswered questions, hidden truths, and unimaginable betrayal finally gave way to clarity, accountability, and reform. Detective Allison Reed's persistence, the power of new technology, and the courage to confront corruption showed that even the darkest cases can be solved, and that the truth, no matter how long it waits, will eventually be revealed. If this story has moved you, inspired you, or made you think about the importance of justice and integrity, there's a way you can help more stories like this come to light. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode exploring cold cases, unsolved mysteries, and stories of courage that demand to be heard. Share this video with friends, family, and anyone who believes that every victim deserves their story to be told. Leave a comment below. What part of the Merritt case shocked or inspired you the most? Your thoughts and discussions help build a community of people who care about truth, justice, and accountability. Remember, each of us has the power to seek the truth, speak up, and never forget those who were taken too soon. Join us, stay curious, and together, let's make sure that justice is not just delayed, it is delivered.